Hi, folks. We're here today with Chef Derna Myotte, and she is a good friend of my sister-in-law. And, I met you years ago when you guys were in college.
Right.
That's been a while.
I'm like 20 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So I wanted to catch up with you because I know the last time I saw you was last year over the summer. We were riding bikes together sometimes, during the night and whatnot. That was a good time.
Yeah, we're gonna be picking back up with that too.
Yeah, I did see that. And what I liked over the summertime, because I'm a new bike rider, like I know how to ride a bike, but
Yeah.
not like in the street and that type of thing with traffic. And so what was so good was that the streets were empty. The streets were basically empty in DC. And so we were able to get some miles in and not really be, we were safe. I felt very comfortable. So it was a good time.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy those rides.
Yeah. And then also you catered a birthday party for my father-in-law. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, just your passion for food and then how that passion is, coming out in your life now, the things that you're doing with it. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, well, the easiest thing for me to say is my passion for food. I think it started in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was a huge foodie, very passionate, and she exposed me to a lot as a child. And somewhere along the line, after I got it out of my system, wanting to just jump into those expected professions.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the line, my passion started speaking to me, and I think it was around the age of 14. I wanted to start pursuing an education in culinary arts, and being raised in a very traditional Trinidadian household, my mother did not support a trade education before a conventional education.
Yeah.
So that created a little hiccup, so I did college in two stints actually. So right after high school, I went to Kingsborough. It's a college in Brooklyn. And, I wasn't happy there because I felt like I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do. And believe it or not, I impulsively left one day.
Wow. That's so brave. That's really brave.
I was around 19, and one Friday I just never went back. And I always reflect on this time because it was definitely a pivotal moment for me. And when and I'll share with you really quickly how I ended up at the culinary school that I graduated from, and that's the Institute of Culinary Education, formerly known as Peter Crump's New York Cooking School. So I met this woman named Tess, and she was an artist, and she was going through a very transitional stage in her life. She was a recording artist, and she was going through a divorce. Long story short, she gave me the pamphlet for the school that I ended up going to. So I opened it up, and mind you, I'm 19. I'm looking at the prices and I'm just like, wow, this is great. I just don't know how I'm going to afford it, especially with my mom not supporting this decision. She got on the bandwagon later on, but in the beginning, it wasn't ideal for her. So after Tess gave me the pamphlet that very same day, mind you, I'm in New York. This is way before I relocated to the DC area. Mm-hmm. I'm riding the number 4 train, and I'm sitting next to this woman who also happens to be from Trinidad. And, I'm a very open person. So I started sharing with her. And this moment, the best way to describe it is that it was divine intervention.
Yeah.
Okay. Because to this day, if I were to see this woman again, I wouldn't know who she was. So she said to me, so I told her everything that I just told you. I want to go to culinary school. My mom doesn't support it, but I really want to do it. She said, well, do you have a pen and paper? Take this number down. And she gave me a phone number, and she said, ask for such and such and tell them you want to be in the work study program. So I said, okay, I just wrote the number down. But when I got home, the number that she gave me was the very same number on that pamphlet that the lady Tess had given me
Wow.
earlier. And that's why I said, it had to be divine intervention, because there's just no kind of explanation for that.
Yeah.
And that's where the journey began. So I called the number and I told them that I wanted to be part of the work study program. I went through a brief interviewing process and I got in. So I actually worked my way through what they've since done away with the program, but it's called a stagiaire program, where you basically assist the chefs and you do it for a certain amount of time, and that pays for the professional program. So I was 19, I had nothing to lose, and I did that, and it was a great experience because it really broadened my ingredient database. There were a lot of things that it exposed me to, things that I had never seen before. So it was definitely a great experience, and it's helped me a lot. It's still helping me today. So after that, I went through the professional program and I did 2 of them. I did both culinary and pastry. And this is where the whole second stint in college comes in. So after that program, I'm working in the industry, and I'm like, this isn't it. But while I was there at the school, also doing the work study program, was this dietitian from Arizona, and she was kind of doing things in the opposite direction as me. She was a dietitian becoming a chef. So I said, nutrition, that sounds great. That sounds like the perfect, accessory to pair with my culinary education, and that's how that next part of the journey started. So I actually went back to Kingsborough to make things right, because I just impulsively left. So all of my classes turned to unofficial withdrawals. So I kind of went back in under what they call the forgiveness clause. I wrote a letter and told them, I just didn't have the wherewithal to make better decisions at the time, and if they can just forgive me. So they let me back in, and I was able to earn a full academic scholarship to NYU. And that's where I studied nutrition and dietetics. And, I'm just kind of merging those 2 worlds. And I tell everyone, even though my business is kind of focused towards, healthy living and promoting wellness, I pursued my culinary interests first. So if you want the artery clogging food, I can give that to you. And if you want the boho chic vegan, I can give that to you too.
Yeah. So I see that in your cooking, because like I said, you catered the party for my father-in-law. And so I've had your cooking, and it is delicious. I've even recommended you to folks. And so that's how much I believe in what you're doing.
I appreciate that.
And your story is amazing. Like, you literally had angels helping you along the way, And so what I find, like what you said, that you're very open, and you are. And I find that a lot of people that are open and vulnerable with their stories, they're able to get a lot out of life, because, people can relate to them, and, maybe they know things that you don't know, and they can help you along the way. And so that's kind of why I'm doing this too, because, I think that hearing people's stories are something that is going to connect us all and just make the world a better place. So, so that's awesome. That's awesome. So you've always been like this very uplifting, positive person. Like, you just have really good energy about you.
Thank you.
And so I did see, as a part of what you also do, is motivational speaking and woman empowerment. Now, how does that part play into your journey?
Well, the journey of wellness has a lot to do with, motivation and positivity and uplifting. Because if you're going down the wrong path, health wise, you're not going to be in a good state. So I find that most people who want to take their life in that direction, they're open to those things. And I'm a very uplifting person. I believe in building everyone up, especially women, because we need to stick together.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. Yeah, so I guess that's why, you and I, we kind of text back and forth. And I know that we were talking last year about you maybe moving into nutrition full time. And so I just wanted to, what was going on with that? Are you still pursuing that?
Oh, a lot has happened since we last spoke, because I think the last time I spoke to you, I was expressing an interest in, possibly jumping back into the traditional workforce, or maybe, even the some form of the corporate sector. And I've since completely changed my mind. I think this pandemic has definitely just pushed me towards my passion.
Mm.
And initially it was somewhat frightening, because it was just, it required a leap of faith on my part. But my meal prep services kind of picked up. So I jumped in with that. And now I think because of what's going on, there's just more of a need for curated meals and things like that, different experiences. This week I actually just did, and I'm going to post about it soon. I actually just did a dinner for two, and it was a surprise proposal.
Oh,
And that was really nice. I really enjoyed it. I definitely want to do more of those. So just because of, the way things are going right now, it's just aligning me with my passion, which leads me to believe that, that other path that I was interested in going down before, maybe that's not the road for me. You never know what the future holds. But I'm big on following my passion, because I believe, if you do what you love, you don't really consider it work.
Yeah, I agree.
And I definitely experience that when I'm catering events. I mean, sometimes I'm working for like 2-3 days straight, but I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And you just said that this took stepping out on faith for you. And I throughout the story that you told, your journey, you stepped out on faith so many times. And so I always find it surprising when, people still, I mean, I understand it, but like when people that have been able to do that in the past and so many times, to hear that that's something that you still need to overcome and you're able to overcome it is just awesome. Like, what kind of steps do you take to get past that feeling of fear?
Well, it just takes courage. You have to be brave, and I think the biggest thing is you have to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to believe in your craft, you have to believe in what you have to offer, and just, go with that. If you're riddled with self-doubt, then you probably won't get as far as you would like. And this leap of faith was actually much, much more terrifying than the last. And my first leap of faith was when I was working at NASA here in Maryland at the Goddard facility. I'll just give you the super quick version. One day I got a little pushback about, just taking some leave. And in the corporate world, it's a very common psychological tactic.
Yes.
To just harass people about using leave that they've genuinely accrued.
Yeah.
So long story short, I took my leave, and my director, she flat out threatened me. She said, if I were you, I would be careful about that. And mind you, I went to a doctor. I was given a doctor's note, and I was told, I went to the doctor on a Wednesday, and he said, take the rest of the week off, and here's your documentation. So I was well covered.
Yeah.
And she said to me, if I were you, I would be careful about the days that you take off, because it just could end up on your evaluation. And mind you, we were 3 weeks away from evaluation. And she said, it just could end up on your evaluation that you're abusing the leave policy. And now I know, getting sick is not something you can plan. You just can't plan it. So that piece of advice just didn't apply to me. And it just, that whole night, I just couldn't sleep. And mind you, I never intended to stay at NASA for that long, because my heart was never in it. So believe it or not, I actually prepared my resignation letter maybe a month or two after I started that job.
Wow.
But I just didn't put a date on it. So that night I said, Derna, you have to make a statement. You have to stand up for yourself, because that's not right. It's not okay to threaten people. And people, I think in the corporate setting, they tolerate a lot of harassment because they feel like they have no options.
Right.
And at the time, I think I had my own private health insurance, and I just weighed out my options. And believe it or not, I actually kept my long-term job in New York, which was a high-end catering company that I'm actually loosely modeled after them. It was a very inspiring job, one of my favorite jobs, and I ended up leaving that job just because the time had arrived. But I worked for them for 10 years, and every day going to work was like a party for me, because you're celebrating life's greatest moments with people. So it was just a fun-filled atmosphere for the entire 10 years. So I kept my job in New York. So I would go back and forth on the weekends. So I said, I can afford to take this leap of faith because I do have another job. At this point it was part-time, but I did have another source of income, and I was moonlighting at this place in DC just to kind of get familiar with my surroundings. So I said, I'll be fine. And most importantly, I had my own private health insurance. I said, you know what?
Oh.
So I went home, I put a date into that resignation letter that I prepared, and I sent it the very next day in the middle of the day so that the director could see. And when she got it, she came in, she apologized, and she gave me like $1,000 bonus. And you and I both know I worked in an environment with only women. And, for somebody to give you a bonus after submitting a letter of resignation, it definitely means that they were wrong, because people typically don't do that. Needless to say, I accepted the bonus, but my resignation stood, and it was the best move that I ever made. When I look back, there are definitely no regrets. I had a couple of moments, especially when this pandemic hit, where I kind of asked myself, if I stayed in the corporate world, would I be worrying, or would I have anything to worry about right now?
Yeah.
But
yes, you would.
Right. But here I am, and things are working out. And what I can honestly say now is the business is growing, and I'm getting business weekly, which is something that 2 years ago wasn't the case. So you have to be ready for that leap of faith. But just to answer your question, most importantly, you have to just trust. And there's this saying that someone told me, and every now and then when I feel a little doubtful, I think about it. But basically it's, take the leap of faith and the net will appear. So jump and the net will appear, so here it is, a year later, I'm fine.
Yep. So I've heard that quote before, and I find myself that it's true. It's so true. It's been true for me. And that doesn't always mean that things are going to be perfect and they're not going to be challenging, but I trust that I'm going to be okay, And I think that's the biggest part. You have to trust that you're going to be okay.
Yes.
So that's an awesome message. I love your story. It's so inspiring. And so a few things that I heard where you spoke about how you had issues with your health, and the organization just they weren't recognizing it, and they didn't want to accommodate that. And so the good thing is that I feel like companies now, and I don't know what the percentage is, but mindfulness and taking care of yourself, that is a big thing in a lot of places now. And people are looking for that. Like now, after this pandemic, that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a place that is going to take care of them and going to care about their health and going to understand that this human person is your biggest asset.
Right.
Why run that down? Why run it down? Take care of it. So
exactly.
Yeah. So then it's just, how it plays into your overall journey, because now you're private chef, you're caterer, and you're nutrition expert. So you said that you offer meal prep. Like what sorts of entrees do you offer for your meal prep?
So I'm actually in the process of revising my menu, because there's a handful of people that want the entire meal planned for them. But the way I currently do it is I offer a list of proteins, a list of starches, and a list of vegetables. And then I give them freedom to kind of mix and match as they want. So for example, on the protein list, I may have, chicken breast, cod, shrimp, something like that. And then for the starches, I'll have different types of starch. I might have sweet potatoes, quinoa, mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, and then different assorted seasonal vegetables. And then you can choose one from each category. And then if you want premium items, then I can offer that as well. And another thing that I tell everyone is my menu is not limited to what's printed. If there's something that you're interested in, I could definitely accommodate you. And that's been working well for me. I have two clients. They're actually a husband and wife couple, a pastor. They have a church in Virginia. And since she's been utilizing my services, she transitioned to being vegan, and I was able to work with her and accommodate her. And she's an incredibly picky eater, and as well as I do, your options are limited as it is with, being a vegan. So to be picky and vegan, it's really challenging, but I've been working through it. And I actually just delivered some food for her and her husband yesterday.
Oh, that's great. So I kind of toyed with, I won't really say vegetarian, but just eating less meat.
Right.
But like you said, it's hard. It's hard for me I really have to plan. And I'm not passionate about cooking. Like I have to be in the mood, and I'm rarely in the mood.
Right.
And so I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I definitely support your decision to eat less meat. I'm kind of in the same boat myself. And one of the reasons I could never fully commit to those names is because I love variety. Variety is the spice of life. Yeah. So if I decide to call myself vegan, I could say I'm primarily vegan or I'm primarily pescatarian, because one day if I decide that I want some lamb chops or I want a ribeye, I want it. I don't want to feel limited. So,
right.
So those labels don't suit me, but I will say that primarily plant-based is just as good. So you could be, mostly vegan, but then if you feel like having whatever you like, go ahead and have it. So I personally don't believe in being so restricted, but everyone is different. And I find that the diet that suits me best is the Mediterranean diet.
Oh, yes. I like those flavors. I used to be into Latin flavors, and I still like it, but I find that I'm craving more Mediterranean flavors lately. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with that.
And it just allows for the most variety while still being healthy. So you're just letting go of the saturated fats, and you want to replace them with healthier fats, and you want to eat lean meats with a lot of fruits and vegetables. So it's just like the regular food pyramid, just a little healthier.
Yeah, that sounds good. And again, mindfulness and taking care of your body. Of course, I'm much older now. And what's funny is that, you have your aunts and stuff when you're younger, and you kind of tease them when they talk about their knee and their this and their that. Mm-hmm. And now I'm the one talking about my knee and my hip. Oh, I need to stretch. Yeah, so this is awesome. That's why I'm also attracted to the things that you do, because I know that you have that nutrition background behind it. And that's the way that I'm leaning. So I pay a lot of attention to the things that you do when you post. Yeah.
Healthy living is so important, and I honestly believe that I'm fortunate because my grandfather, he actually he just turned 92. He was like, the original holistic guru in the family. So I grew up, he was always a huge advocate for juicing. So all of these super grains and superfoods that are now becoming trendy was always a part of my household. He was into quinoa before it became popular. He was big on kale, kamut, farro, bulgur, all these other grains. White rice was unheard of at home when I was growing up, believe it or not. Brown rice was the standard, and brown rice was kind of like the white rice. And then we had all these other like red rice, black rice, all these weird grains, and I specifically remember my brother and I, if we had to go over to my grandfather's house, we would be like, Mom, can we just eat before we get there? He's gonna have all this crazy stuff, like if he wanted to make you hot chocolate, he never made regular hot chocolate. He made it with carob, the carob root.
Yeah,
it's very popular now. He made his own almond milk from scratch. So and he's 92, And I think the reason he is that age is because of his lifestyle. Yoga was a thing for him back then. He was doing yoga. He walked to work every single day. you know um so
Yeah.
he is my when it comes to healthy living and herbal remedies and things like that. He's my number one inspiration because he was doing it before it became a trend.
Right. That was his whole lifestyle.
That was his whole lifestyle.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that so you did say that in the beginning that growing up you were introduced to a variety of foods. And yes, like the things that you're talking about, I definitely didn't have in my house. We had white rice.
Well, it was my grandfather. My mom, she did cook white rice, but my grandfather, I guess he just knew all the dangers of, processed white flour, white rice, anything bleached. And I don't even know what made him pursue that. I think somewhere in his 40s or sometime after he migrated to this country, he just took an interest in his health and he made it a lifestyle. And I see with my eyes what it's done for him, and he's definitely been a tremendous influence for me, because I find myself, like, nowadays we'll get on the phone and we'll talk about different herbs. Like right now he's into the moringa and the ashwagandha, and sometimes I'll send it for him, and if he comes to visit, I'll make sure I buy it and give it to him and stuff like that. And and it's nice to be able to share that with my 92-year-old grandfather.
Yeah, I agree. So then I know in turn, I've seen you educating children. It looked like you were doing a cooking class with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love seeing that whole circle. You received the information and now you're passing it on to the next generation. So like, what kind of things are you doing with the kids?
Well, I'm actually working on a couple of different things. I submitted a proposal to a couple of different recreational centers in DC because I'm interested in going in and teaching healthy workshops, because us as people, we're predisposed to certain illnesses that causes our mortality rate to be lower than some others, and these are all food related illnesses. So if we could just target this from a dietetic standpoint, we could make a lot of improvements. And it starts with the children, and it's just nice to include them because they need to know these things as well, and it helps with character building as well with the young children. But I offer things for all different age groups.
Yeah, I agree as far as, starting them young, and just like with you, make it something that's normal, something that you know about and it's not strange when you're introduced to it. So yeah, I agree with that. So I see that you also offer like online classes, like a cooking for two or something like that it was.
Yes. So that was actually in person, but I'm open to doing recreational cooking classes online as well.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. We should talk about that. I'd love to do a cooking class. Yeah.
And, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that maybe 2 years ago for my birthday, we did not Williams and Sonoma, but a store like that sells like cooking stuff, and they have classes. And so we learned how to make those little French cookies, macaroons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good. We had a good time. So I know he would love that too.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was going to say. So in addition to the recreational cooking classes, I want to do hands-on cooking parties. So it could be, something for your birthday or any celebration. It could just be, a team building exercise, whatever the case may be, or a birthday party for a young child or adult. It doesn't matter. Any type of hands-on cooking party. I love doing those kinds of things. And I'm really a big fan of fresh pasta. So that's one of the things I love to teach a lot. I did something on Zoom a while back. It was a cooking class for an organization, I think based in DC. And I taught fresh spinach pasta and Alfredo from scratch. But baking, you name it, I'm into all of it.
Oh, that's awesome. So,
Even vegan baking, that's another area that I'm really interested in, just because there's that vegan market and I want to tap into it. And I love to bake, so I can accommodate those people. I can do gluten free, dairy free, you name it. I'm open to all of it.
oh wow, you're so talented. So, what is your favorite meal to cook?
That is the hardest question in the world because I love so many things, but if I had to, because I mean, there's so many favorites. So I'll give you two favorites.
Okay.
So I have, a homely dish. I love curry crab and dumpling, and then I like to make butternut squash ravioli from scratch.
Oh, I love butternut squash. I love butternut squash anything. So,
Yes.
well, that's awesome, Derna. I just really love talking to you. Your uplifting spirit and hearing your story and how you persevered. And I know you still have some uncertainty right now, but the way you're pushing through it, I love it. And what this, with this pandemic and everything, what it has shown me is just how creative everyone is. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are just out there doing their thing.
Hmm.
And it's almost like a fire has been lit under people. And just like you were saying, like that job it just wasn't doing it anymore. You had to do what your heart was pulling you to do. So yeah, that's what I love hearing these stories. And it's like I could talk to everybody all day about it.
One thing I will say is that I've kind of gotten away from my idealistic thought process, because I think when I got into this industry, I had a very regimented outline for what I wanted to do, which was I just wanted to cater events. But now I'm open to everything. So initially the recreational cooking and things that wasn't part of my initial vision, but you have to change with the times. A branch that doesn't bend in the wind breaks. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. I'm just changing with the times, and I just want to accommodate the future so I can continue to grow and learn.
Yeah, that is how you grow. You have
Yeah.
to open yourself up to different things and different experiences. So
Right.
yeah, well, I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Great, great. Well, it's so great talking to you, ma'am.
Likewise. Thank you so much.